There was an uproar at a hospital when the medical team brought in a teenager who had lost her will to live. "I don't want to live," said her while crying. After some medical treatment, a young doctor named Kyung-hee came to her room and gave her some encouraging words he got from someone in the past. "It's better to have someone you can fight against even though it's easier to die instead." Kyung-hee recalled the memory when he met the person who said that to him. He was 18 years old when he saw her for the first time at the train station when he went to school. Kyung-hee never thought that the girl was a transfer student who would be in the same class as him. Her name is Na-bi, the girl with the cold glare, the one who brought the change in his life. Kyung-hee in the past was a nerd that often bullied by his classmates until he decided to give up and end all his misery. That was when Na-bi showed up with her understanding of pain and gave him some words of encouragement to move on. "It's better to have someone you can fight against even though it's easier to die instead." She said that Kyung-hee was lucky that he still had someone to fight against, and at least he could take revenge. Na-bi then helped Kyung-hee to avenge the bullies by humiliating them in front of many people. Unfortunately, instead of thanking her, Kyung-hee actually returned the kindness with the terror of the bullies who ordered him to bully Na-bi. He was too afraid to fight back and did what was told to him. 3 days after the incident, Na-bi reportedly ended her own life, making Kyung-hee devastated and living full of remorse. Mature Kyung-hee rejected his sister's attempt to set up a blind date, so she accused him of still not moving on from Na-bi. Kyung-hee denied it. Later that day, while drinking with Seul-gi, his old high school friend who ended up marrying his sister, he swore that he had completely forgotten what Na-bi looked like, but all the confessions were debunked when he remembered every detail fondly after being drunk. Kyung-hee accidentally found Na-bi's diary when he visited Na-bi's father who ran a bar. In that diary, Na-bi told all the suffering and feeling of loneliness that was so strong that she wanted to die. She wrote how she sought help many times, showing the feeling of remorse. A mysterious voice suddenly appeared while an old recording was playing. The announcer in the recording asked if he wanted to meet someone in the past if he could go back in time, even though it would be impossible to return to the present. Kyung-hee, who was drunk then, started responding to the question and said he wished to go back in time. A song suddenly played when the figure of Na-bi appeared in the window. Kyung-hee tried to follow her through the streets until finally he found a glowing door marked as no exit and entered it without hesitation. Kyung-hee woke up at home confused and found himself in high school back in 2007. He rushed to school and ran towards the railway station all the way. He wondered if it was all a dream or time travel as he heard in the previous recording, but after seeing Na-bi alive and healthy, he felt that all of the miracles were too real to be a dream. He ran towards Na-bi and hugged her gratefully, but the surprised Na-bi pushed him back and called him a pervert. She then went to get on the train, leaving him. That day, Kyung-hee was once again confronted with bullies in his class, but this time he was not afraid to face them. He soon realized that he only had 5 days before Na-bi died, and with his determination to save the girl he loved, he faced his old school life with new confidence. When the teacher in class scolded Na-bi for sleeping through class and told her to leave, Kyung-hee tried to defend her, saying that a teacher must have an interesting learning method so that the students would not be sleepy. This attitude made them both punished for cleaning the class. That was when Kyung-hee tried again to approach Na-bi by saying he would do anything for her sake. Hearing that, Na-bi told him to always keep his distance because she still thought of him as a pervert. Not long after that, his friend Seul-gi surprised him with a desperate hug. He accidentally found Kyung-hee's will and was worried that he would end his life. Kyung-hee knew that it was his past self that did that because he was there not to repeat the same mistake and instead to save the girl he loved. Seeing the two of them, Na-bi immediately left from there. At night, Kyung found Na-bi's diary that he accidentally brought from the future. But when he read the notes inside the book, the diary entries disappeared and were rewritten because Na-bi had a different experience, especially how Kyung-hee, whom she considered crazy, kept trying to approach her. Kyung-hee read the entries and felt a bit annoyed, but he realized that he had to change his appearance to impress Na-bi. Despite his new look, Na-bi seemed unaffected and kept asking him to keep his distance from her. Kyung-hee then met the bullies who kept taunting him at school. He remembered exactly that day a ball would fly towards him. He dodged, so the ball hit the bullies, but Na-bi ended up getting pushed and fell down the stairs as a result. Kyung-hee frantically rushed Na-bi to the infirmary, and luckily, she only had minor injuries. After attending class, Kyung-hee immediately found out that Na-bi went home early. He rushed to catch up with her and found her confronting a man outside the school. The man is Jin-wook, an ex-boyfriend of Na-bi's friend Da-eun. Na-bi tried to persuade the man to visit Da-eun in the hospital, but he brushed it off and said that it would be useless because she would die soon. Kyung-hee, who saw the incident without understanding the situation, immediately hit Jin-wook. He tried to defend Na-bi but was shocked when he learned from Jin-wook that Na-bi had taken someone's life. Nabi returned to go home and told Kyung-hee, who chased her away and tried to understand her, to leave. She then remembered the past, which then changed her life. Everything happened about a year ago when Nabi persuaded her friends Da-yeon and Ji-yeon to go on a trip, but the bus they were on ended up crashing into a roadblock, leaving Ji-yeon dead and Da-yeon in critical condition, while she was mostly unharmed. Back to the present, Nabi went to the hospital, where she asked Da-yeon to wake up from her coma. Da-yeon's mother was not very receptive to her visit, since she always reminded her of that tragedy. Nabi said that she would not stop coming to the hospital because only with that would she be able to survive. The fact that only Nabi survived the accident made Da-yeon's mother think that the universe was not fair to her. Nabi realized that but couldn't do anything but drown herself in regrets. Kyung-hee, who secretly followed Nabi to the hospital, finally knew that the girl was facing a very serious problem. Kyung-hee came home and found Nabi's diary being rewritten, but he only saw teardrops falling on the page. Worried, he rushed to Nabi's apartment and begged to meet her via text message. Nabi agreed to meet at the park near her apartment and gave him a minute to talk. Kyung-hee said that he would get his hands involved in Nabi's affairs as a form of gratitude for saving his life. He said that even though Nabi didn't remember anything, she looked unhappy and immediately returned home after the time was up. The next day at school, Kyung-hee was again confronted with bullies who were starting to fear him. He used some of his memories and acted like an esper to make the bullies think twice before dealing with him. At night, Jin-wook arrived at the hospital to meet Da-yeon, but he hesitated and finally met with Nabi. He told her the reason why he finally wanted to come for a visit. Previously, he met Kyung-hee at the sauna, who told him not to run away from reality. What happened to Da-yeon made Jin-wook sad, but instead of facing it, he just tried to run away to forget her and cut off his relationship with Da-yeon, unlike Nabi, who had been fighting all this pain and loneliness alone. Kyung-hee begged Jin-wook to visit Da-yeon, at least for the sake of everyone. Nabi tried to make Da-yeon look beautiful before meeting her ex-boyfriend, who then emotionally sang their favorite songs in the past. That night, Nabi immediately found Kyung-hee, who was watching over her in the hospital, and surprisingly thanked him for what he had done. As they left, they met Nabi's father, who came because Da-yeon's mother called him. He angrily accused Nabi of bringing up the sorrow that was left for continuing to show herself in the hospital. They argued and her father beat her, while saying that maybe she too should die to fix everything. Kyung-hee comforted Nabi after she escaped from her father and then put medicine on her injured knee affectionately. Later, when Nabi entered her house, Kyung-hee tried to talk to Nabi's father. Knowing how pitiful Nabi's father's life would be after his daughter died, Kyung-hee encouraged him to spend more time with his daughter and understand his daughter's sufferings before it was too late. Meanwhile, Nabi saw everything from her window. At school, Kyung-hee remembered the fire that broke out in the classroom and tried to stop it before it happened. It was the day he felt hopeless because the bullies took advantage of the chaos to make fun of him by spraying him with a fire extinguisher. Even though he tried, the incident still happened, only it came from a different source. Nabi recalled her trauma from her past and escaped to the roof. Meanwhile, as the bullies put out their fire, they were spraying Seulgil with extinguishers. At that very moment, Kyung-hee immediately realized that Nabi was on the roof that day and out without a reason. At that moment, Kyung-hee did what Nabi did to save him. He gave her some words of encouragement and asked her to stay alive. Kyung-hee knew that at that time, Nabi was stuck in a cycle of sorrow and was struggling through it all alone. Nabi blamed herself for what happened to her friends and saw how people blamed her from behind, making her stop hoping. Her father was happy because she was safe, but that actually made her feel even more guilty. No one tried to understand her feelings, so she wanted to end her life. But from the bottom of her heart, she also had a dream to be able to live a normal life like other people and be happy. Because of that, she felt frustrated and didn't know what to do but blame herself. Kyung-hee insisted that everything that happened was an accident and it wasn't her fault. He knew words like that wouldn't comfort her, but he wanted to show that there were people who loved her, people who want her to stick around and those who would be sad without her around. He asked Nabi to endure a little more because he would soon come to save her. He asked her to stay alive before he held her in a hug. Kyung-hee was confused as to why the incident still happened despite his efforts to stop it from happening. He immediately realized that the same events kept happening and the only thing that changed were the variables, like that day's incident where Seulgil was the one who got bullied instead of him. He realized that the same scenario would still happen, but the actors were different. Realizing that, he took Nabi and Soo-jae to humiliate the bullies in front of many people and ran away happily as he did in the past with Nabi. Seulgil takes Nabi and Kyung-hee to the amusement park to celebrate their little victory. After riding some rides and playing games, Kyung-hee's older sister, who worked as an operator at the amusement park, dragged Seulgil away so her brother could be alone with Nabi. That was how Seulgil could finally close to Kyung-hee's sister and later married her. Nabi asked how Kyung-hee changed so much in the last few days. Kyung-hee, who she knew before, was just a nerd who just dared to stare at her all day, but everything looked so much different. Later that day, Nabi confessed how happy she was and how she kept thinking about Kyung-hee, who looked handsome that day, in her diary, but she also feared that the happiness would soon disappear. Kyung-hee realized there were only 2 days left before Nabi died, and he still didn't know why the girl ended her life. The next day, Nabi was shocked by her father, who suddenly prepared a birthday party for her. He said a happy birthday to her and said that he was grateful for her as his daughter. Nabi did not respond much other than asking for some money like she used to do to him, but soon after she left, she returned and hugged her father from behind. Nabi invited Kyung-hee to go to the sea to pay homage to her friend who died. She said that she felt guilty, wondering whether she had the right to live happily. The same thing from the past suddenly happened. If in the past it was Kyung-hee who threw water balloons and soaked Nabi's clothes, it was the boat passenger above them who accidentally spilled water on Nabi's clothes. While Nabi went to the toilet to clean up the stains, Kyung-hee answered Nabi's phone call from the hospital, informing him that Dae-eun's condition was getting worse. Kyung-hee finally knew the reason why Nabi ended her life, but he decided to hide the news for a while, feeling that it was not the right moment to tell Nabi about it. Kyung-hee pretended to accidentally drop Nabi's phone from the boat while taking a selfie with her to cover the news. After returning home, Kyung-hee asked Nabi to stay with him until morning, but Nabi said she had planned a dinner with her father. As a birthday gift, Kyung-hee finally gave Nabu a hairpin he didn't get to give her 10 years ago. After that, Nabi kissed his cheek as a thank you and left him. Kyung-hee chased her and kissed her gently. Nabi wrote in his diary how happy she was to be able to greet Ji-young again, which she couldn't do alone before, but he could that day, with Kyung-hee's help. She continued to write how her heart wouldn't stop pounding after kissing him because it was her first time. Kyung-hee's smile while reading the entry that night was bittersweet after thinking how the next day would be the day when Nabi ended her life. Meanwhile, later that night, Nabi got a call from Jin-wook and rushed to the hospital. Jin-wook and Nabi had to accept the harsh reality when Dae-eun was finally declared dead. Dae-eun's mother, who was stricken with grief, was shaken and blamed everything on Nabi. The next day, Kyung-hee realized that Nabi had found out about the news because she hadn't come to school, so he rushed to meet her. The bullies came to confront him, but Seo-gye rescued the day and fought the bullies so that Kyung-hee could go. Meanwhile, Nabi was standing on top of the building with all her regrets. Things get complicated when the roads suddenly get stuck and Kyung-hee was forced to run. He got a call from Nabi, who said that she couldn't give up because Kyung-hee had given her so many reasons to hold on. Kyung-hee found Nabi across the street and went to meet her at an intersection, but a car suddenly went out of control and sped up toward Nabi. Kyung-hee realized that he couldn't change the future, but he could change the variables, and someone had to die in that scenario to save Nabi. So in the end, Kyung-hee sacrificed himself to save Nabi. He pushed her to the side of the road and let the car hit him. 10 years later, Nabi survived and she became a doctor. There was a commotion at the hospital and the medical team brought the same teenager at the beginning of the story. After Nabi took care of her, she went to Kyung-hee's bedside, who was lying in a coma, and said how everything he predicted in his letter came true. Turned out, Kyung-hee had predicted everything, so he prepared letters for his family and friends if something happened. He told his experience traveling through time, and although not everyone would believe it, for Nabi, it seemed to make sense after she remembered all the strange things that happened. She believed that the man came back from the future to save her. In his letter, Kyung-hee told Nabi to live her life happily, and she granted the wish while caring for him in the hospital patiently. The story ended when Kyung-hee opened his eyes after 10 years in a coma and smiled.